Great, thanks for confirming, Sierra. Um, hey, Kirsten, it's great to see you here. If you can hear some background noise, that's just my 2-year-old having a fight with an aeroplane. Because this is the world we live in, right? It's certainly the world I live in. He seems to be trying to fight for attention with a dog and an aeroplane right now. So how are we all? I'm not sure who's on Facebook because I've not been able to see it live on there. So those of you who are on Facebook, oh, hey Diane, I've just seen a little notification there, which means that it possibly, oh, there I am. Oh, thanks. You love the colour and the lippy. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So yeah, great to be here. Today I am running my first in a series of mini masterclasses, and today's topic is all about creating resilience in your life and business. Really interesting topic, and one that I think is such a helpful, valuable topic for people. So I'm excited to dive in and explore it with you. I had really wanted to have a prop for this, and I didn't create time to run downstairs and get it. I was a bit worried that if I ran down to get my prop, that I might get tackled by Maxie, by the 2-year-old. So I'm without props, so I wanted to do without. So how are we all? How resilient are you feeling right now? I would love you to share that with me. For those of you on Facebook, you can type in the comments. I won't be seeing them really live and up to date, but I will do my best to keep an eye on them. For those of you who are in Zoom, you can type to all panelists. So the first thing I want to ask you is, what is resilience? What is resilience? It's one of these buzzwords, right? It's a word that gets bandied around all the time. It's something that we often wish we were or wish we were more of. It's something that we often admire and maybe even envy in others. But what is resilience? I decided, so I wrote my own definition, and then I decided to go to the oracle, the modern day oracle that is Google and Wikipedia, and see what is the shared understanding of what resilience means. But I'd love you to really write your own definition. You know, what does resilience mean to you? What's it all about? So the first definition that I found was the capacity to recover from difficulties. And what was really interesting about that definition, it had a few more words in it, was that it described resilience as toughness. Toughness. And I'm going to tell you why I think that's a big issue. And in fact, why there's a massive problem within that in itself. The second descriptor for resilience, and interestingly, I had already decided that I wanted to use an elastic band as a prop when I talk about my definition of resilience, was the ability of a substance to spring or bounce back into shape. And so that definition of resilience is all about elasticity. So on one hand you have toughness, and then the other you have elasticity, which feel different, don't they? They feel very different. And when I was thinking about what's resilience to me, how do I define it? Because this is a topic that I continually support people with, we explore, and is very multifaceted. It has different names and faces and shapes and sizes. But for me, it was about what's your flexibility within your current ability to stretch and grow. And it's also about how able you are to adapt. How able are you to adapt yourself to the circumstances that you find yourself in? How able are you to respond in a flexible and responsive way to the circumstances that you find yourself in? But my definition very much has that sense of it's about growing, it's about stretching. And so that's what made me think of the elastic band. So when we think about an elastic band, is it resilient? Absolutely. Those things can last for years. But ultimately, they weaken. And what is it about that elastic band that causes it to weaken? What's the thing that that makes it? No, I'm not looking at Sierra. What's the thing that makes it feel weak or operate as weak? And it's additional or continual stress, right? That's the thing. That's that continual stress, that continual pressure, that continual force doesn't make it tougher. It's not about how tough you are or how tough the elastic band is. It's about the conditions under which the elastic band is forced or subjected. They both sound quite negative words, but you know, how is it treated? How is that elastic band treated? Is it continually stretched and stressed? So it's not allowed that opportunity to contract as well as expand. Is it wound up really, really tight and left like that for a long period of time? In which case, that's going to, when you unravel it, that's going to have caused the band to warp and become misshapen. So now that we understand more about what resilience is, I would love for us to talk about, so how do you create it? How do you create more of it? Because that's what we're really interested in, right? Is how we create more resilience. So there's 3 aspects that we're going to explore today. The first is mind, the second is body, and the third is our spirit. We're also going to talk about strategies. We're going to, because that's all quite internal, right? That's about you and who you are. But the external circumstances that we talked about, we're also going to talk about ways that you can influence that as well. Okay? Specifically, when as a business owner, we'll look at it through that lens, as well as being a human being. So before we go further, excellent. Okay, so I think we're still live on Facebook. And I'll pop in there in just a few moments. So Pam, Laura, Diane, great to see you. So the first area, mind. How resilient is your mind? What's your gut intuition? Like, what's the gut response to that? And then based on that answer, how does that make you feel? What does it make you think? How resilient is your mind? Can you think of an example or perhaps a series of examples when your mind has had to be resilient? And more importantly, how do you create more resilience in your mind? What does it look like? What does it feel like? So for me and the clients that I work with, being able to feel more resilient within your mind and your mindset is very often about strengthening the positive aspects of your mind through the habits that you have, the practices that you have, the rituals that you have. And so how you create more resilience in your mind is you commit to habits and practices and routines that strengthen that optimism. Thanks, Sierra. Sarah just told me I have great lips and energy. So thank you. Maybe the lips have helped me with my energy, because my energy has actually not been great today. But I'm pretty resilient, okay? So I was able to bounce back from that. So what are some of the habits that will clear your mind, that will strengthen your mind, that will support your mind to be more flexible? Let's think about, back to that elastic band. What are the habits that that create relief in your mind and that don't create the additional stressors that negatively impact your ability to be resilient. So the first one that I want to talk about, and this is proven, research-based, science-based, and that is journaling. Undergoing different types of, there's different names of processes you can use, whether it might be gratitude, but ultimately self-inquiry of some sort, where you explore. Creative expression is another tool that has been, creative writing, creative expression, that's been proven to create more resilience. So that idea of giving yourself an outlet, giving your mind an outlet through paper and through journaling and through writing is a wonderful way to create more resilience. So if any of you do that or have used that, I would love to hear your insights around that. If I go onto Facebook, I'm going to end up hearing myself. So what are they? What do you do? So in addition to journaling comes a very interesting one, and that is the practice of self-compassion. How does having more compassion for yourself make you more resilient? Why is that important? Because all too often, we're our own worst enemy, right? We're our own worst critic. The things that we say to ourselves are things we would never dream of saying to pretty much anyone else on the planet. Yet somehow we habitually feel and think that it's okay to do that to ourselves. Or we might not feel that it's okay, but yet we still do it, which is the self-sabotage aspect of that inner critic, of that self-doubt. So practicing self-compassion, being nice to yourself, believing and understanding yourself to be a good person and treating yourself as such is huge, because there's so much wasted energy that you expend in all of that negative self-talk and that critical self-talk. And what we're always trying to do through the work that I support people with is reclaim wasted, misdirected energy, which might be into a strategy that's not working in your business, or it might be a thought process that keeps tripping you up time and time again, a pattern, an old story. That's just a few examples of where we would want to reclaim that energy when you're ruminating and perhaps continually thinking about what you didn't say or what you could have done better. And we want to redirect that energy in a way that supports us and really works our, builds resilience by working some of that positivity muscle. And so as well as self-compassion, it's also really, really important that we're able to grow and to cultivate feelings of trust. Trust in ourselves, trust in others. That massively helps resilience. Feelings of optimism. Having that sense that no matter what lies ahead, I'm gonna get through it. I'll if I don't have a handle on it right now, I'll get a handle on it. Feelings of positivity. And again, coming from that perspective of strengthening through strategies and practices your positivity muscle. Incredible for your resilience. So trust, faith, optimism, hope, positivity, as well as self-compassion are all really, really important practices. I'm going to use that word again, practices, because it's not enough for something to be a word on a piece of paper, right? In order for it to positively impact who you are and how it feels to be you and the success that you create in your life, you have to practice this. You need to be these things. Not just conceptualize it, not just think about it, but be it. So 2 more really important aspects to mind before we move on to body. And the next one is, those of you who know me and who have worked with me or who follow me in here will know that I am a massive, massive, massive fan, supporter and promoter of, it begins with an M, meditation. Meditation is such a brilliant way to create more resilience, more mental resilience, but it also really helps you to create more physical resilience as well, because it positively impacts not just your nervous system and your psychology and your mind, but it positively impacts your physiology as well by calming down your stress response and your nervous system. Now, again, think about your body as being that elastic band. When the elastic band gets brittle and breaks, it's because it's been under undue stress, too much pressure. We're exactly the same as that. And so meditation is a way to rebalance, especially if you do it on a daily basis. It's a way for you to, every day, bring yourself back into balance. Bring yourself back into balance. The world is not going to go anywhere. You will always get triggered. There will always be challenges. There will always be days where you might feel hormonal. You might face a really, really difficult tragedy in your life. These are practices that will help you no matter how big or small your need for more resilience is. And of course, if you it kind of makes me think of that saying, make hay when the sun shines, because if you practice these and build that resilience muscle and build your energy stores, when bad things do happen, you have more resilience. You drop further down to climb back up from. Making sense? Hey Angela, I've just seen that you've joined us. It's hard for me to see who's on Facebook, but I'm so glad you're all here. And this is a really interesting one, and like trigger fest possibly coming up. But one of the most important things that you can do to create more resilience in your mind and to create that resilience muscle and your ability to cope with whatever life throws at you is forgiveness. Now that might feel like a wild card. Does it feel like a wild card? But when you hold on to grudges, resentment, anger, hate, who that really fundamentally impacts is not the person or people with whom you hold that feeling towards, you have that animosity towards. It's you. There's this great saying, it's attributed to Buddha, who knows who said it. I say it a lot. And that is, staying angry is like drinking a cup of poison and expecting the other person to die. Because that anger is what's wearing down your resilience, your ability to bounce back. Because it doesn't positively charge those energy stores that we talked about. So of those practices, of those research-based concepts that we've talked about, which feels like the most important one for you to attend to? Use your intuition. Don't overthink it. You know the answer. Which feels like the most important one for you to attend to create the biggest difference? You might be thinking, oh, all of them are relevant. Yeah, you're right. They all are. But which is the one that is going to give you the biggest bang for your buck if you do something and implement that right now today? And on that basis, what is the commitment that you're making to yourself? What is that commitment? Okay, moving on. Your body. How do we help your body to be more resilient? What are some of the things that you do to stay resilient physically? Or I should say, what are some of the physical things you do with your body, to your body, to help you have more all-round resilience? Because these aspects of ourselves are not separate entities, right? Our mind, our body, our spirit. We are a connected system, a holistic system. So all of these aspects really influence each other. So what do you do to take care of your body and to help it to feel more resilient. 3 very simple things. I don't think any of them will be a surprise, but if you do attend to these 3 things, and the extra 4th bonus one is going to be meditation again, obviously, because it also helps your body. First is exercise and moving your body. The importance of being able to support your body to operate and as a well-oiled machine, and exercise, movement, taking care of your body is a really important part of that. Yoga, yay, amazing. Yoga is great because it ticks a lot. In fact, yoga ticks all 3: mind, body, and spirit, and that's one of the reasons why it's such an amazing, powerful practice and tool in your life. So it's great to hear that. Thanks for sharing, Kirsten. I'm not sure if anyone's sharing on Facebook, but if you are, I'll hop over there in just a second and see. Sleep. How much sleep do you get each night? Are you well rested? Is it broken sleep? Do you find yourself waking up at a particular time in the night? If you do, that's signs that your body is harboring too much stress hormone and too much cortisol likely, and therefore you're really not getting the rest that you need. So if you prioritize 8 hours sleep a night, you'll become more resilient. And then, and great, Kirsten, that you've been doing yoga every day for 2 months. What difference has that made to your resilience? I'd love you to share that with us. What difference has that made to your ability to cope, bounce back from setbacks, triggers? And then the third thing is hydration. Do you drink enough water, and do you get enough fluid in you for your body to be, again, functioning at its optimum? Because if you're not drinking at least 2 to 3 litres of water, and that can include things like herbal teas, then you are absolutely, your body is not optimized and you're not going to be as resilient as you could be. And I think you only need to think about how you feel on a day where you've maybe overindulged the day before, whether that be rich food or processed food, alcohol. Your sleep quality tends not to be as good, or you might have had a late night, and then you tend to make bad choices the next day. You're tired. How resilient do you feel on a day like that? Because I suspect you're more emotional, you're more easily triggered, you feel things in a more heightened and intense way that isn't good. It doesn't feel good. There's a saying, I think it's a saying in Scotland, I'm not sure if it's anywhere else, about having the fear. The fear is something that happens when you've had a drink, and it's because you feel edgy because your nervous system hasn't had a chance to reset and replenish when you've been drinking excessive amounts of alcohol. So it doesn't help your resilience. So Kirsten shared that daily exercise is making her feel great, always first thing in the morning, love it, enjoy it, feeling energized. Absolutely. And therefore, because you commit to that on a daily basis, whatever the day throws at you, you're more resilient to deal with it, right? So these things do, and they're proven, it's not just what I think, they do absolutely work to create more resilience. Moving on, last one in this area, spirit. What does your spirit need? What does your soul need? How do you attend to that? How do you create resilience? So let me just whiz through some of the ways that you can do that. Quiet time. And for some people that's like, oh my God, quiet? No, because then my brain chatter is so intense that I'd rather be filling my head with other stuff, thanks. Meditate. That's how it feels to be you right now. Nature. Wonder. Being able to get lost in the beauty of the world. That sense of connecting to something more. Having an experience in life in a way that feels more meaningful and more sacred because you're more present. It creates so much resilience. And one of the things, this might sound strange what I'm about to say, but it's one of the most powerful truths I've ever learned in my life, that as my dad died and I was looking after him and I was caring for him, the more present I was to him and his suffering, because he was suffering at the end, the more present I was to him and his suffering, the more sacred it was and the more resilient I became. Because being able to fully fully experience an experience like that, you know, an initiatory experience like life or death, illness, tragedy, there is great growth and wisdom within that. And so I gained more resilience throughout that process by not running away from it. I gained more resilience through that process by looking it square in the eye, all of it, and being able to fully immerse myself in it and be fully present. Now, what was absolutely necessary for me was that I was doing pretty much all of the other things that I've talked about to also help me get through it, because it was such a deeply sad and grief-stricken and heartbreaking time. Yet I was able to cultivate resilience through that. And that was an incredible lesson for me to learn. An incredible lesson to learn. Where have you surprised yourself? I never thought I'd be able to deal with that in a million years, yet I did. And I did by leaning into it and not running away from it. So we've talked about the mind, the body, the spirit, and all of these. I mean, how many things are there in there for you to do and choose from? So many, and all of them simple, right? None of what we've talked about so far has been complex or complicated. So let's also then talk about, if that's who we are as a person and the way that we can generate more resilience, what about the way that we live our life, and the way that we run our business? Where can we create more resilience within that? So the first thing I want to talk to you about are, how do you create goals, or how do you set goals and then create the plans to deliver on them? And this is really important because it's so vital that the way that you structure your life and the way that you make decisions sets you up for a successful outcome. Because if you don't set yourself up for a successful outcome, you're constantly having to fall off a cliff and then climb back up again, right? And constantly having to deal with, that didn't go as I thought, I didn't meet that deadline, I didn't do that to the extent that I wanted to, you know, I didn't fulfill that goal, or I just didn't reach that goal. So it's really, really important that when you set yourself goals and targets, that you're doing so in a way that you might not know exactly how you're going to achieve it, but you do have a belief that it's possible, and it feels like a bit of a stretch, but it's realistic, right, for you to achieve that thing. And you can also go for things that don't feel totally realistic. You can. When I say realistic, you can set yourself a really big, scary goal, but if you're going to do that, put the support in place to enable you to set yourself up for success, right? So what I mean by that is, seek support. Perhaps it's a mentor or a coach, perhaps it's a friend. Seek support, so someone who can have your back and help you work out how you're going to achieve that thing. Join a community. There's so many online communities, like we're in one right now that I'm creating here, cultivating in partnership with all of you. Join a community. Perhaps it's an offline community, you know, like the real world. Remember that place, the real world? But join a community that can help you and support you, give you that support in your endeavour. And also, if you're going to devote your time and energy to something, and you're going to be willing to fail, make it something that you really care about. This is why I work a lot with my clients around What is that core sense of purpose that you have? What is the mission that you understand that you're here to fulfill? What is that thing? Because the amount of resilience that you can get from your purpose, the amount of resilience that you can get from your why, from why am I doing this, what's it all for, there's huge amounts of resilience that you can claim from that. Because it gives you that ability to pick yourself up, get back in the game, and do what's necessary to achieve it. Do what's necessary to make it happen. And that is another descriptor of resilience, isn't it? Something not going your way, but dealing with it and getting on and making it happen anyway. Failing horribly, miserably. I've failed so many times as a business owner and as a human being, and all of those failures have led me to be ultimately much more successful. But the ones that were in alignment with what I really want were the ones that were much easier to bear in some respects, because I could mine them for the nuggets of wisdom that were going to help me move forward and with confidence. Because confidence is really born from that sense of resilience, isn't it? When we hit a setback. So the other thing that I want to talk about around your business, and then I'm going to hop on and see what questions you've got, is in your business. How do you create resilience in your business? So we've talked about who we are as an individual. We've talked about some of the strategies that you might apply or adopt in order to be successful and have resilience on your journey to become successful. What about in your business? What does resilience look like in your business? So there's a few things I want to share with you on that. And then I will open up for just a few questions. So in your business, I believe and I teach and I support you with processes and predictability, creating resilience. What do I mean by that? How can processes help you to create resilience? Well, processes can absolutely create predictability, right? If it's the right process. So what I mean by that is, in the early days of having a business, and sometimes they're not so early days, it often feels like you're 2 steps forward, 1 step back. You know, like you make a bit of progress and then you have a setback, and so many businesses don't last more than a year or two because it is tough. It is tough to have a business, especially one that feels like your heart in a package, right? Which mine definitely does. So being able to create predictability and being able to have solid processes that give you a step-by-step process to follow creates more resilience in your business. How so? Let's think about lead generation, for example. How do you attract people to your business? How do you sell your services to people? How do you create predictability around your cash flow? If you don't have a clear process that says, these are the steps that I take to bring leads into my business, when you don't have any leads in your business, you have nothing to fall back on to help you be resilient, right? So it's like the difference between you falling back into a process that almost like has your back versus falling into that void of, oh my God, how did I find myself here flat on my back again in this situation where I don't know where my next client's coming from. Because often we don't know where our next client's coming from, but the resilience that we need comes from working out, well, what's the steps I'm going to take every time to lead me to my next client? And the resilience comes from that being there and decided and understood, rather than constantly feeling like you're having to reinvent the wheel and think it up every time, right? Throwing darts in the dark is one of the sayings that I say. You know, you're just like flinging stuff and hoping that something hits, but you've got no line of sight. You're just throwing darts in the dark. So do you have Have you created resilience in your business by having the right processes and strategies to help you have steps to follow and to create predictable outcomes, reasonably predictable outcomes? Because if you don't, you are really missing out on creating that sense of resilience, not only in you, but in how your business operates. And let's face it, in these times, everybody's business needs to be resilient, right? If it's going to survive. So I really want you to think about, where can you create more resilience in your business? Is it cash flow? Are you clear on your cash flow? Do you have enough money to bounce back, to create resilience, to cover you if you don't have any cash flow come in for a couple of months? Is it around the way that you create a great experience for brand new clients? What I would call an onboarding process. Have you created resilience in your business by having that set out so that you don't constantly have to scratch your head and reinvent the wheel every time? What about your sales process or the sales experience that you give people? What is that thing? Is it replicable? If it is, and a lot of it's automated, then you're creating resilience in your business, right? And the same for bringing leads into your business. You're creating resilience in your business by being clear on what your approach is, having it planned out, knowing what happens when, so that it doesn't really matter what kind of day you're having, it doesn't really matter how many clients you currently have, you have that running. That's creating resilience in your business. So, which is the most important one for you? And I would love, love, love. Now I'm going to have to try and mute myself here. So, which is the most important one for you? Sorry, let me turn this down. Okay, so great. Oh, thanks everyone. I'm just seeing your lovely comments on Facebook now. Paula, Laura, Pam. And so for you, Pam, being grateful even while going through pain, absolutely. That gratitude saved my life. I really feel like that. Hey, Angela. I think I might not be seeing the comments live, and it's old ones. So what I would love you to do is add in any comments that you have or questions into the comments, and after I wrap up the masterclass, I'll respond to you, okay? I'll reply to you. But what is most important about this is this time that you have invested being with me right now, being with me over the last 30 minutes or so, that you take it and use it proactively, productively, to become more resilient, to be more resilient, to create more resilience in your life and in your business. Because when you have more resilience, everything feels easier. Things become steadier. There's less of a roller coaster of highs and lows. And from that place, you can build your tower higher. You can become even more successful. You find it even easier to bounce back. It's been really, really, really fun talking to you today. I watch out, because there's some new things coming out from me, likely to be next week. I'm going to be providing you with a roadmap to create your 6-figure business with ease and alignment. I'm really excited about that. So watch out for that. I'll do a masterclass on that at some point. Whatever topics you would love to see us cover here and love to see me cover, please share in the comments below. I've got a plan laid out over the next few weeks, and in fact probably over the next couple of months. I'm doing this every couple of weeks, so I would love to make sure that I'm really supporting you with exactly what you want to be supported with. And what a great closing comment from Kirsten. Resilience is fab. Thank you for this. I'm glad I could join. I'm really glad you could join too, my love. It's been so good having you here. And And so go forth, all of you. I really wish you a great day, a resilient day full of positivity and optimism and faith and hope, and fun. Let's not forget that when you're resilient, you also create more room in your life for fun. It's been great talking to you. See you soon.